Hello, it's me, and I'm going to do something a little different today. You see in front of you a bunch of pieces, obviously from Shapeways, and it's obviously a puzzle, and I'll tell you it's a cuboid puzzle. I'll tell you that it is not something you've likely seen before, probably not something you've ever heard before, and not something that's really around. So it's something brand new. This is YouTube first. So I'll just take a look at some of these pieces. In 2011, with the help of brilliant puzzle designer Gregoire Fenning, a new kind of puzzle was introduced on this channel. To understand its significance, it's important to go back a little further to understand where it came from. The n by n by n cubes, such as the 3 by 3 by 3, 4 by 4 by 4, and on up, while captivating in their complexity, did not provide much more of a challenge in terms of solve strategy. So I started to delve into cuboids where not all of the sides had the same number of layers. Starting with the 3 by 3 by 1, due to its seemingly one-dimensional shape when solved, but floppy edge positioning when scrambled, this is called a floppy cuboid. Having the structure of n by n plus p by n plus p, where p is any even number, I asked if Ola Jansen can make a second-order version of this, the 2 by 4 by 4. Hello, it's me and
Noah.
The triumphant return of Noah, because he needs to help me get through this beast over here, the much-awaited solve of Ola's triumphant 4 by 4 by 3. You know why they call it that, Noah?
Why?
Because this is 4 over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I say 3? I meant 2. 1, 2. 4 by 4 by 2. This is version 3.1 something or other. So took a lot of time designing this. This is the third incarnation of this particular puzzle, and it's perfected. I've shown you the motion of it, which is fantastic. Very smooth. It's like it was built to turn. You could probably finger trick it if you were so motivated to do that. Now, what's interesting about this puzzle, you may say, well, we've done cuboids before. What's so special about this one? Well, there's actually something very unique about this puzzle, something that I've not found, and a certain parity can exist with this, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. What was noticed on the solve is a particular position that was not seen in the 3 by 3 by 2. There's something very interesting about this that's different, that makes this somewhat unique. This is the configuration that I'm looking for. This is actually what I want, with both of them on either side. One where two corners were at right angles to the plane of the puzzle. To solve this new configuration, only seen with the higher order floppy puzzles, not seen with the so-called non-shape-shifting domino cuboids, which had a n by n plus o by n plus o configuration, where o is any odd number, I had to make use of an algorithm. Not a new one, but one that had been used for edge rotation parity problems of even layer cubes. And this was the Red Bull algorithm, but just applied to the corners to get the proper exchange and rotation to take the floppiness out of the puzzle for the rest of the solve. So let's do it and see what happens. These should be rotated in. So 2R, 2B, 2U, and L. Get it? Red Bull. Then 2U, RI, 2U, R, 2U, 2F, R, 2F. Then we have LI, 2B, 2R. So you can see we already got that. So we've got ourselves back at the cuboid form, and that's what we wanted. Later, the fantastic YouTube designer, solver Dan Fast, or Crazy Bad Cuber, asked me about a dilemma with a puzzle that he designed, which was the next level up in the floppy category, the 3 by 5 by 5. Hello, it's me, and I've got a very interesting, very special puzzle here. This is a 5 by 5 by 3, or 3 by 5 by 5, depending on how you want to call it. This was made by Dan Fast, our favorite Crazy Bad Cuber. Anyway, this is a particularly challenging one. It's actually a beautifully crafted puzzle. Apparently this was a collaborative effort between him and a guy named Tom, and it's really brilliantly put together. What they did is they took, I believe, a 5 by 5 by 4, did some gluing, and did some sanding, and did some building magic, and they ended up with this guy over here. A perfectly formed pillowed of 5 by 5 by 3. Now, this isn't just a typical cuboid, and we're going to go through a solution, we're going to go through a solve of this, but this has some characteristics that sets it apart from other cuboids. He had a question on how to rotate and flatten an edge pair. Recognizing that this was the same configuration and prevented the floppy cuboid from being reduced to a domino, I surmised that the same strategy can be used. So the question is, how can I make this to where these guys come down? Because if these guys are only brought down, I can move these quite freely. So how do I move these down? Well, we actually have a way of doing that. So thus the floppy parity was born, which would be solved simply by the Red Bull algorithm. So 2R, 2B, 2U, and then L. 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, Li, 2B, 2R, and look at that, worked perfectly. So these two are now down, so we're good. In addition, this kind of parity can be recognized with two edge pairs containing two edges that must be exchanged with each other. All the way around and simulating the rotational movement that it's going to do. So we have this. So we have our cross. This is what it looks like. Sometime earlier, I was introduced to the fascinating art of SLS 3D printing by Tom Z. Okay, this is going to be a tutorial on how to solve this deceptively difficult 3 by 4 by 5 puzzle. Who had printed for me the first example of a cuboid with a structure of n by n plus o by n plus p, or n by n plus o by n plus o plus 2, which due to its resemblance to a brick, I called the brick cuboid. This was the brilliantly designed 3 by 4 by 5 and was demonstrated and solved for the very first time here. Hello, it's me again, and this is going to be a tutorial on how to solve this monster. So what is this? Needless to say, I was smitten. That such a perfect puzzle could come from a computer design and a 3D printer was fascinating. So enamored was I by this, I signed on to twistypuzzles forum for the singular purpose of letting other puzzle collectors and solver know about his creation. However, I noticed another kind of dilemma. Hello, it's me, and I've once again pulled the 3 by 4 by 5 off the shelf, and you can probably guess I take any excuse that I can to do that. Somebody brought to my attention, a viewer brought to my attention, this scenario that I had never gone over and actually had never encountered before. As you can see in this situation, everything is put in except 3 pieces. This is actually... While trying to reduce it to a domino, I noticed a situation where 3 edge pairs had 3 pieces that needed to be cycled, unlike the floppy parity where 2 edge pairs and 2 pieces that needed to be exchanged. To solve this, I had to come up with what proved to be the longest and toughest algorithm for a cuboid, one that I use to this day. 2R. Then from here, we're going to go U, 2R. This is what I first started referring to as the brick parity, as it prevented solving it as a domino after reducing it from its shape-shifted brick form. And bang. Okay, and this is our first layer. What have I got here? What is this? Let you look at that real quick. And I guess the question is, how deep is this puzzle? What is the depth? But in any case, this is what it looks like. Just like that. What I endeavored to see created was a puzzle, a form of a cuboid that had the full shape-shifting as a floppy, with all of its complicated and bandaged solves, including the floppy parity, as well as the shape and the form of a brick, with its final 180-degree solve strategies after returning it to the brick form. What emerged from this idea is what would become my favorite of cuboids, combining all the challenges of the floppies, bricks, and dominoes, and expanding on that challenge. What came from these pieces was the assembly of the first rectangular 3 by 5 by 7, the first ultimate shapeshifter. So I was happy to see that it did carry with it the Floppy parody, and I also discovered it carried with it the brick parody as well. Just when I thought I covered it all, it turns out I didn't. So had a viewer question regarding a particular kind of parody. Actually, I had a couple of questions regarding this. The thinking was that, okay, so we have this ultimate shapeshifter, this 3x5x7, and because it behaves like a, like a floppy, it's going to have the floppy parodies and everything.
How do you spell encyclopedia?
I don't know. Look it up in the encyclopedia.
Okay.
Because it's the because it has the characteristics of a floppy with a floppy parody. Noah, you're living in the age of Google. You can find out any answer. And it starts to behave like a brick. The question is, does it have the brick parody as well? And the answer is yes. See, the thing about the ultimate shapeshifter, the thing about the ultimate shapeshifter is that it actually starts to span the different classifications, different criteria. So, did you find it out?
Yeah.
How do you spell it?
I don't know.
Good research. From this concept came Trayfum's version of the series of puzzles, which included a hand modification of a 2x4x6, as well as a hand-modified cut-down of a 7x7x7 made into a 3x5x7. A fantastic puzzle which still holds up today and among my favorite to solve. I like the way that the Olsing is minimal. I like the way that it has more of a cubic shape to it. So this is a very stable looking 3x5x7. Now, as you know, through Puzzle Maestro, I've got another 3x5x7, which is this beast over here. This was the first of the ultimate shapeshifters. It still holds up, but all the functionality of this is pretty much the same as this. Following this was another hand mod of a 5x7x9, again brilliantly made by Trayfum. In a feverish attempt to continue this series, Jeremy Eisenberg designed his brilliant 4x6x8 and 6x8x10. There seemed to be no end to the increasing layers and complexity of this ultimate shapeshifter category of cuboids. But even though the puzzles got larger and more complex, the solve strategy was really the same. And although they would take longer to solve, the challenge was also the same. So how do you invigorate the challenge of a puzzle series? That would be theme and variation. To take this series and skew your perspective by modifying the structure even further. And who better to do this than a master builder of the caliber of Casey Weaver or Twisty Tex. Hello, so what you see in front of you is not a wall, it's actually a box. So this is a box coming all the way from Texas, where only good things come from Texas, especially when it comes to twisty puzzles. So let's see what is in this gargantuan thing and what joys have befallen us. So we were talking about the history of the 3x5x7, the most ultimate of ultimate shapeshifters. So we can bring up for old time's sake the original 3x5x7. This was designed by Gregor Fenning, and it's been broken in quite well. And this is a 3D printed. So this was the original. What I like about this is its shape. It's perfectly flat, and it has this artistic quality to it. So this was the thing that really showed the potentials of what a 3x5x7 could be. So it still has, it's fully functional, well used. I still have a couple of these lying around. Anyway, so it started with this, and then came Trayfum's version, which is the cut down. And what that really means is that he took a 7x7 and cut it down, stickered it, and came up with this. A much more portable, if not playable version of that, and still remains one of my favorite puzzles to solve and resolve. Okay, so I see that I've got something else to maybe do my unboxings with. I think it may be time to retire this thing. I don't even know why I've got the tin foil here. Why do I got the tin foil there? I don't know. But in any case, I think maybe it's not as sightly as something like this. So I really appreciate the thought here of using a much more professional knife. Ooh, very nice, very nice. Wow, okay. Looks like a dinosaur claw. Anyway, so I'm going to be using this from now on. You served your purpose, but I think it's time to put you into more, well, retired skies. So let's see. Okay. Let me see if I can't move this off to the side here. So what do we have here? This is called the extension only. So these are all variations of 3x5x7. And let's see what this looks like. An extension only is, as opposed to cutting down a 7x7, the oh, very nice. Very nice. The extension only version uses a 7x7, but we glue on extensions on the top of it as opposed to cutting it down. And the hope is that you can get more of a square shape to it. More rectangular brick type shape to it. Okay, so let's see what we have. This one I've not seen yet. Okay, so let's see what this has to say. So this is 3x5x7 cuboid made with 3D printed extensions. Again, this is a cut down version. No extensions, just cut down and milliput and all that good stuff. So this is FDM printed in ABS black. Extension only version of 3x5x7 ultimate shapeshifter cuboid created by bandaging a Shengshao 7x7 base and then gluing 3D printed extensions. Done about a dozen solves on this puzzle, but have not yet glued down the center caps, so you might want to check them periodically. Hope you enjoy the puzzle. Well, of course we're going to enjoy the puzzle anyway. So here this is. Okay, so this is really nice. This has got the classic look to a cuboid. Trapums looks nice, but it does have sort of that rounded, tapered look. This has more of the classic brick look to it. It's got the classic color scheme, so yeah, and exactly the kind of smooth moving that I would expect from Twisty Tex's work. Just do a little checkerboard pattern here. Now you can see it's, of course, it's a bigger puzzle. So it might not seem as portable, but it still has a classic look and would look great in the midst of a collection. Sometimes with some of these puzzles that are made in different ways by different people, it looks like they come from different stocks. But this one would fit nicely in with the truly cubic portions. So move this up around here. Yeah, so the shape shifting is just as smooth. This is really one for the books. This really is very, very well done, and is very close to what I would expect from other ultimate shapeshifters. So this has a general look and a general shape very similar to his bump cube. You can see that the size is very similar, but that's the other variation to a 3x5x7. Because of the bump look, you can see that the size is a little bit bigger, but really the same kind of a concept, only applied to a mirror cube or a bump cube. So this one stands to be just a little bit more portable. So we get into the variations. So this was the first of the puzzles. This was the next one that was cut down. And this is a variation that isn't cut down but by extension. And I think this is the closest thing to what the pure look of a 3x5x7 should be. In many ways, the 3x5x7 of my dreams, because it, like I say, would look good in a collection against any of the 3D printed 4x6x8s and all the others that are like it. So this is about as perfect a look as an extension only puzzle that I could see. And way back when designing this, or way back when sponsoring this puzzle, I never would have thought that we'd end up with something as perfect looking as this. So this is probably the archetypic 3x5x7. Well, once you have your standard puzzles, we might as well start doing theme and variation with this. So with the theme and variation, the first one that we see here is the bump cube. What's fascinating about this is that this is bumped, so it uses not color, but it uses size. So we're using the size of these pieces. Although it's kind of subtle, the bump isn't huge, but you can definitely see it, or definitely feel it in any case, so you can solve it by palpation. So this was the next variation, which was a neat little perspective bender. Well, in addition to there being a bump version of it, well, we'll pull out the next version of a 3x5x7. which is this guy over here. This is an old friend. Bring this out here, bring this out here. So as we recall, this one is the Fisher puzzle. So 3x5x7 Ultimate Shapeshifter Fisher Cuboid. Created by bandaging, once again, a 7x7 and gluing 3D extensions. Extension only mod, no faces were cut down. Added pins to the middle layer. Centerpiece extensions in an attempt to reinforce them. And the middle layer centers also have been glued in place. Very long middle layer extensions are the most fragile part of the puzzle. Only put a little Traxxas 50K on the springs and left everything else dry to slow the movement down and hopefully make it easier to control. Now, I've actually used this puzzle already, and this one was a game changer when it came to 3x5x7s. Game changer in a very specific way. Let's move this out of the way here. Put this over here. So you'd think that it was just a perspective bender, which it was, but it did something else as well. When you have a modification like this, when you have a Fisher cube, it turns it into what's called a supercube. A supercube means that orientation had meaning, and different pieces that had equivalencies no longer have equivalencies here too. So we talked before about how you have two different kinds of parodies. You've got the brick parody, you've got the floppy parody, as Ultimate Shapeshifters do. Well, here it's something different, because in this case, these two pieces are equivalent to each other. These two pieces are equivalent to each other. So I can do algorithms, these may flip-flop and you wouldn't know it. But over here, if this center is equivalent to this center over here, these two pieces are equivalent to each other, but these two pieces are not. So I found myself doing algorithms, and when I did the algorithms, these two would flip-flop, and I couldn't get it into a solved state quite as simply. Same thing with this. If I turn this over here, these two are equivalent, but these two are not. So I found myself having to try different kinds of strategies and different kinds of algorithms in order to make that solved. So I had to do more than just an Ultimate Shapeshifter solve. It actually took that same solve strategy and turned it into something even more difficult. So this took the concept and showed me challenges I never would have even anticipated just by doing that variation. Okay, speaking of variation, if you're going to bump a puzzle, if you're going to Fisher a puzzle, what you can also do is ghost a puzzle. Now this one was not made by twistypuzzles, but this was the Ghost 3x5x7, and this was really a beast because it took the same kinds of perspective, the same kinds of issues, the same challenges here, and what I found is that I did not have any equivalencies of any of these pieces. Even with this puzzle, the bump puzzle, you did have some equivalencies of pieces, but these two you did not, and this one had an added problem with perspective. So let this take its place. Ooh, does it love to turn? Along in here as well. So all 3x5x7s. So in terms of other themes and variations, you can also have what's called the horror cube, horror 3x5x7. This is a 3x5x7, but in its alternative scrambled / solved state. This is a solved state where all the colors match up, but this is really a scrambled state when it comes to a 3x5x7. When you solve it, it turns into a cubic 3x5x7, but although it looks like a cube, all the sides are messed up in terms of color. And that solve takes a long time. It's actually a parity-free solve using AI strategy, but brings us to a state where it's cubic, but the colors don't really correlate. So that brings us to our final piece here. Our final variation. And this one I'm very excited to see because, well, it's twistypuzzles. What's not to be exciting? This is called the mini cubic. So let's try to guess exactly what that means, mini cubic. So aside from making it look rectangular, aside from making it look like it's a brick, there is the possibility of making it look cubic. So this is once again from a Shangshao Mini 7x7. This cubic bandaged only version of 5 3x5x7 non-shape shifting ultimate shapeshifter cuboid was created by bandaging a mini shank shell 7x7 base, a cube base, filling the seams with epoxy sculpt, and then sanding those seams flush. This puzzle modification was conceived of and built by my good friend Cameron Patzer. If I am not mistaken, the 7x7 wall burr puzzle in your collection was made by him as well. So fascinating. Lastly, this puzzle is a gift for you. I hope you enjoy your new ultra portable 3x5x7. P.S. I left you a few final parodies to deal with. Once again, I am completely overwhelmed. Twisty Tex's kindness is completely overwhelming to me. The fact that he would make such a gift of these puzzles. So this is neat. This is really cool. What I like about this is it's a 3x5x7, but it almost looks like a baby 3x5x7. So it's cubic, and it's perfectly cubic. So what we have is we have a version of this, but it's portable. And this is something that people can actually design, but the way that he did this, put all together like this, is really, really well professionally done. And now we have ourselves what appears to be, well, something of a parody. And there's a couple kinds of parodies, and those that recognize this from what I was describing is this appears to be a brick parody, whereas I've got this edge is completely fine, and I've got 1, 2, 3 edges that are not, but I've got these centers that are problematic also. Okay, let's see if we can get this to work here. Move this to here. This will go here, this will go here, and this will go here, if all works well. Everything is looking kind of yellow here for some reason. Okay. So we're going to start off with a 2F. Now we're going to move from here. UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R. And then we did a 2F, 2L, 2F, and finish it up with 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U. Then we do a 2L rather, 2F, and aha, it worked. So brought all those in. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to deal with these guys. Now, notice I did move the parity up to here, but I should be able to do 2 parity maneuvers to get those back. This will go here, this will go here, and this will go here. So this is going to be the same thing, a left-sided version, but now with the middle one over here. Let's see, let's make absolutely sure. This will go here, which is what we want. This will go here. And this, well, okay, I don't want to get too messed up. Oh, you know what? It's these middle ones here. Well, what's interesting is that these are not that kind of parity. So our brick parity is over here now. So this will go here, this will go here, and this will go here. So we do it again, but in the top layer. So that's going to be 2F, UI, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R. Then we do a 2F, 2L, 2F, and finished up with a 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U. We do our 2F, swing this back, and we're good. We're good. Okay. But in any case, this will go to here, this will go to here, and this will go up, and this is the right-handed version. So the right-handed version is 2F, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L. Then we go 2F, and the 2R is going to be here, 2R, and 2F, then 2L, U, 2R, UI, 2L, U, 2R, UI. We do 2F, swing this up, and there it is. Okay, so the parity has been fixed, which hopefully means I've earned the right to actually have this puzzle, to own this puzzle. So this is a really, really neat addition to it. And with these mini puzzles, it really makes the portability of a puzzle like this a lot more accessible. What I really look forward to with a puzzle like this is once again the perspective bending. So this would be the most complete and exhaustive collection of my favorite type of puzzle and my favorite version of that puzzle, the 3x5x7, where the newest, smallest version takes center stage. When I see this kind of brilliance, when I see this kind of creativity, when I see a theme and variation that starts off with such a simple concept at its most primitive of beginnings, to see it come to its full fruition in terms of its most playability and portability, I'm constantly reminded of the ultimate discoverer of the theme and variations of life of Charles Darwin. From so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved.
Thanks for watching.